There we go. Hi, everyone. Welcome to the Zoomverse. Welcome to the Major Minor Forum. I'm so happy that you're here on this cloudy Thursday night. So thank you so much for coming. So what this event is really just a student-on-student conversation about the do's, the don'ts, the regrets, the excitements about declaring a minor, especially in the Reese Lounge, especially in the excitement of being a Tisch Drama student. So kind of how this will go is I will ask questions about specific minors, but also more esoteric general questions. And you're also feel free to ask questions in the chat that we'll answer. And then we'll have a portion at the end where you can turn your camera on and ask questions as well. So I want to introduce our guest. So my name is Jack. I go by he, they pronouns. I'm the chair of the Drama Student Council. And I have a minor in social work and a minor in psychology. And I will pass it to Vicky.
Hi all, my name is Vicky Werner. My pronouns are she, her, hers. I'm currently in Stone Street Studios, but I used to be in Adler, and I am a double minor in BEMT and producing. Oh, and I will pass it to Belle.
Hi everyone, my name is Belle. I'm currently in Playwrights Horizons. I'm a second year. I kind of have a confusing history of what my minors and majors are, but for right now I'm a psychology and creative writing minor, but I'm actually going to be dropping those and starting a double major in psychology instead.
I'll pass it to Jordan.
Hey guys, my name is Jordan Flippo. I am a senior in Stone Street at the moment. However, I've also studied at Atlantic, Strasbourg, and then I was supposed to go to RADA, but sadly that did not happen. But it gave me time in my schedule to do 3 minors: film, producing, and music. And my pronouns are he, her.
Yes, and last but not least, Rachel.
Hi, everyone. My name is Rachel Johnson. My pronouns are she, her, hers. I'm an academic advisor. I liaison with Atlantic. So I'm an advisor to some of the students here. And yeah, I'm really happy to be here, and I'll pass it back to Jack.
Thank you so much, Rachel. So what I'm curious about first is us getting into the plethora of minors that we are coming from. So if I could pass it first to kind of the minor that everyone is thinking about at the moment, BEMT. Vicky, I'm curious about what made you decide to pursue that minor and what kind of your classwork looks like at the moment.
Absolutely, that's a great question. So what pushed me to take this minor, I knew when I came to college that I was fascinated with the acting side, of course, and the producing and all that fun stuff. But I also loved the behind the scenes things. I wanted to know how to manage myself and how to get ahead in this industry. And I guess just because an actor is really your own business. And so I thought to myself that I wanted to pursue that and to get the business knowledge as well as the acting knowledge. I will be honest, I had a bit of a rough start in the minor because some of the required classes were a little bit, just a tad, like not my speed, not my style, a little bit boring. But after you get past those prerequisites and everything, I'm having the best time. You basically take some classes from Stern, you're taking some classes from Steinhardt, from Tisch, and I really liked it. I think I'm done with my minor now. That's why I say liked it in the past, but I had a great time.
Congratulations. Do you feel, so you're talking about, acting being your own business, which it definitely is. Do you feel like this minor is giving you kind of the tool set to be your own business, to market yourself?
I mean, absolutely. I also just felt like taking classes outside of Tisch, like getting kind of a loophole way into Stern was a really cool way of like meeting a lot of cool collaborators as well, and finding people with different skill sets and I don't know, just people that I can work with in the future. I felt like there's also a lot of really interesting classes in this minor that really appealed to me as both like an actor, of course, but also like a creative and a creator. Like I got to take movie marketing. I got to take What else did I get to take? There's a lot of overlap between BEMT and producing, and so I might be switching up some classes. But I remember one that I got to take that I really enjoyed was managing creative content development. There's a whole list on Tisch Drama Access, I believe, that Rachel just put in the chat. So oh yeah, there it is. But thank you, Rachel. But yeah, there's a class for everyone, I really feel. And I had a great time. And I feel like it also helped me manage my own expectations before going into the entertainment industry and graduating next semester.
Yes, and congratulations. Yeah, I mean, I feel as a senior graduating Tisch Drama in a couple of weeks, that minor would definitely be beneficial for me. I wish I would have taken. But I'm curious, so you talk about producing. I want to pass it to Jordan, who also is pursuing a minor in producing and is also a senior like me. I'm curious, Jordan, about your motivations to pursue producing and what you are getting out of it.
So, and hopefully you guys can't hear the music in the background. If you can, my apologies. But my motivation for producing was mainly to be able to create things for myself and my peers. That's how it started. I used to do a lot of like films and things and produce shows in high school. And so when I became a drama student at NYU, I was like, okay, this would be a fun thing to pursue. But I actually didn't get into the producing minor until like the end of my sophomore year. So if you're worried about having time, like you definitely have time. And the best thing I got out of it was because I was a producing minor, I got to be eligible for this women's mentorship program through Tisch. That's like women in entertainment and like theater business, where I was able to then be mentored by Stacey Mendich, who's the lead producer of Dear Evan Hansen. So minoring and producing at Tisch, you get so much out of it, not just the classes that you're going to and the information you're learning there, but also things outside the classroom, like mentorship and internship programs that you get through being a producing minor. And then finally, through my producing minor, I've met a lot of other actors and drama students who are wanting to be on the other end, the other side of the creative team and the table as well. And so now I'm like a part of a production company with several of the people that I've met through the producing minor. So there's definitely a wide range of things you get out of it. And so if that's something you're interested in, I could not recommend it enough.
Yeah, and something you say that I think rings a lot of bells is the timing of taking a minor. I mean, all of us have taken 2 or more. And it's really so you declare your minor kind of going into your second year. And what's really nice is that from there, you have 2 years to complete it. So a minor usually, for me, it looks like 4 classes for each minor, which kind of seems daunting, especially when you're taking 2, it's 8 classes. But what helped for me is that my AP credits got me out of some of the introductory classes, so that really helps. So I took my psychology classes first over the course of a year, and then I spaced out my social work minor also over the course of a year. So it really just looked like 1 to 2 classes per semester. So that's kind of what it looks like logistically, and it fits differently for everyone. So we've talked about BEMT and producing. It sounds great conceptually, but I'm curious about the elephant in the room, which is how do we fit this within our busy Tisch Drama schedules? You know, how does it fit within studios? So if I'm not wrong, you both are coming from acting backgrounds. So Vicky first, and then Jordan. I'm curious, did a lot of classes within the minor fit within your studio schedule? Vicky, yeah, or Jordan.
Jordan, take it away.
Sure, I can go for it. So as to how the classes fit in my schedule, it did take a lot of planning, but it's definitely not impossible. Like you are, you have your studio schedule 3 days a week. So what I did, which worked really well for me, which may not be for everyone, but I personally found helpful. There's a lot of classes within not only the producing minors, but several of the other minors that are like once a week and 3 hours long. And that way I could take classes on the same day as my studio classes. I could just go to this night class for 3 hours after studio. And honestly, it was like super chill too, because I think night classes just have like a little different vibe. But so that really helped. And I still had then Tuesdays and Thursdays or Mondays and Wednesdays to do all my other gen ed classes. Also, if you like go and look at the fine print of several of these minors, a lot of these classes can overlap with the classes you're required to take for your major anyways. Rachel and I, it was like this whole thing with Rachel because the website said something different and Rachel was like, no, like of course they can double count. And I was like, mind blown. This just like made my schedule so much easier. So you really should talk with your advisor on what classes can double count because you might not have to be taking like extra classes. You might need to be taking them anyways. So talk with your advisor and like look at the fine print on the websites.
And it looks great on your resume, right? So like to have 2 minors, when I was taking psychology, I noticed all of those are science classes. And I took 3 classes for my psychology minor. My social work are all humanities, and those were 4 classes. So by taking these 2 minors, I got all of my sciences, all of my humanities, and all of my balance of liberal studies out of the way. Then I used my last social work class as an elective. So, and I didn't choose to do so, but because of this, I was eligible to graduate last year, a year early. So the biggest misconception I feel is that people feel that these are tacking on extra, classes. No, the only thing that you're doing when you're declaring a minor is you're completing your degree. You're just choosing to complete your degree in a more specialized way. So if you have a passion for something else, I feel choosing a minor is for you. If you are of the camp of I want to get as much experience as possible, then I would say stray from choosing a minor and do as many sample classes from other schools as you would like. But Vicky, anything to add to that or Jordan's comments about fitting within your schedule?
Absolutely. And I loved what you both said there in terms of like the double dipping. A lot of the time you can do that and that happens. For certain minors, there are some electives that you kind of have to take, but we also have space for that in our schedules. And I never really felt like any of my double minor moments gave me an issue. I also wanted to add something. Yes, class selection for a lot of people can often be very daunting because there are hundreds and hundreds of classes, right, at this crazy big university. But a lot of the time, minors can also, like as Jack mentioned, like let you follow your passion in a more specialized way. It can also open doors for you. There are like in terms of opening doors to other schools, because some schools say this is only like for major classes, or if you're in the major, you can take these certain classes. But minors also have like specific ways that you can loophole your way into certain schools, like Stern and Steinhardt, which is what I did. Even though I'm not a Stern or a Steinhardt student.
Yeah, and then listen, then you have that extra pivot if you want some Stern money. But so interesting you say about loopholes, and I want to pass it to Belle, who's had a very interesting path, both with scheduling and some decision making. Belle, could you speak to your double major minor experience?
Hi, yeah. So, okay, so I'm a second year. So these lovely other panelists have kind of completed their majors and their minors, not their majors, but their minors. Me, however, I have not. So I'm kind of in the thick of it. So I can speak about what's going on with that. My freshman year, I declared a film minor. I dropped that. Just so you guys know, if you do drop a minor, I didn't know this, it goes on your transcripts. It does. And I was like, I looked at my transcript and I was like, oh my goodness, it shows I dropped my minor. And then this past semester, fall 2021, I declared a psychology and creative writing minor. But then I ended up kind of learning more about what career path I wanted to go down. And I found out that for myself, dropping the double minor and actually switching to a double major would fit kind of my needs better. But there were some caveats that came with that. I had to figure out scheduling. Minors are much easier to schedule within your current like within the drama department, because it's a lot less of a class load. So I'm taking 10 classes with the psychology department as well. So I'm completing an extra 40 credits, and luckily they do overlap with my education, general education requirements. So I'm taking 2 sciences. I'm using my psychology classes to fill my balanced liberal art requirements, and then I have one more humanities done, but it doesn't go into humanities, so I have to take a separate class for that, and then everything else going into my electives. So it does overlap. However, since I'm starting my double major so late in the game, I do recommend, if you do want to go into a double major, I recommend as early as possible so that you don't need to take summer classes. I'm taking 2 summer classes, and it's kind of expensive at NYU, I'm going to be honest. So I was actually able to take them at my local university. I'm from Hawaii, so I'm taking it at the University of Hawaii back home, which is really helpful with cost because I'm a resident there. But I do really recommend, if you want to do a double major, to start as early as possible, because you'll end up, if you're like me, you'll end up having to take summer classes, which isn't like super bad, but if cost is something that you are worried about, I definitely recommend starting as early as possible. Yeah, I can answer the double major questions.
Thank you so much. That's so informative, and the best piece of advice that I got from my advisor, Joshua Jackson, was take a class in your minor before you declare. Because like you said, when you declare, then it gets real and it gets on your transcript. So taking a class is great. So I took my social work class, I took the introductory class, decided I liked it, and then declared. With my psychology, I declared before I took a class. Wasn't the best decision, but I coaxed myself into enjoying the minor. So that's a great tip. And also, even if you take the class and you end up not liking it, it still counts as that humanities science. So I'm curious, Belle, you and I love us some psychology. I'm curious why you chose psychology as your double major and how it interacts with your training and playwrights.
Yeah, so I chose psychology. It's a weird path, but one night I decided, hey, I really like psychology. I always viewed kind of drama and acting as like the arts version of psych, and kind of the understanding of like the human path and the human mind. And I'm really interested in developmental or abnormal psychology. So it kind of goes really great into my playwrights training, because there's so much of playwrights that is about kind of understanding human behavior, and also because playwrights is not just an acting studio as well, it's also a production and writing and directing studio. It really does help. I basically did like it's kind of weird, but I did classes through this like online Yale thing. It doesn't give me any credits, I just did it. I watched the lectures and I was like, do I enjoy psychology? And I really do. I listen to podcasts, things like that. And I just realized that I ended up wanting to go into the psychology field more than I do want to go into the entertainment industry. If any, I'm looking at creative arts therapy. So drama therapy is something that I'm really interested in, possibly. Still figuring out myself, college, man. But yeah, I realized that it was really complementary if you want to understand kind of human interactions and human behavior. And if you're especially an actor, like it can be really helpful to understand like, why does a person react this way to something like this, or why does a person with this certain background possibly respond to this scene this certain way. So yeah.
Yeah, that's great. Yeah, and Phoebe, we'll get to your question for sure. Just to speak more to psychology, it's really interestingly structured because you have kind of both the science and the more social kind of ways of psychology, and you take both. And then you get to take within the minor an interesting like elective that is more conceptual. So I took cognition first to understand how the brain works, and I took social psychology for which is my favorite class at NYU, which is about how people interact. I think is really informative for me, my work as a stage manager. And then I took human sexuality um, for my third class, which was absolutely amazing. There's love and relationships, human sexuality, abnormal psychology. It's pretty interesting. It is psychology, I would say it's a bit reading heavy, but it's also more kind of in the term. So if you are good at learning definitions, psychology is your way to go. Um, so yeah, while we are on the topic, yeah, let's talk about your minor in creative writing, um, and what that looks like for your training.
Oh yeah, totally. I just really quickly wanted to add, for the double major, if you are interested, there's a couple extra classes you have to take, of course. You have to take the 2 intro classes, which you only have to take intro to psych, I believe, for for the minor, but then you have to take the statistics class, the introductory to psychological statistics, as well as the advanced statistics class. You take 2 core A's, which if anyone's like interested, it's on the psychology website. You take 2 core Bs, you take 2 advanced electives, and then you take a lab as well. So it's heavy, and I'm taking like 3 psych classes next year, like next
But that's
semester.
for the double major though.
Yeah, that's
Yes,
just for the
not
double
the
major,
minor.
not for the minor.
The minor is an intro class, a core A, a core B, and an advanced elective. That's it.
Yeah. And then for
Creative
studio.
writing.
How did I handle the core classes for another major if conflicted studio A's? Okay, so it's actually there are Tuesdays and Thursdays. There are options for that. You just have to schedule it out. And I'm actually in my advanced training not taking. I'm only taking 2 more semesters of studio so that I can make room to do the double major. So you do have to sacrifice maybe taking another 2 semesters of studio in order to complete that, to leave room for those classes. I can talk about my creative writing minor if that.
Yeah, let's touch on some of the questions in the chat first, and then we'll get to creative writing. So yeah, let's talk about registering for classes, because sometimes it gets really daunting. My experience is that a lot of the classes will go to the majors first, the people who are declaring it as a major, and then given to students outside. And sometimes it does take some maneuvering, but I'm curious, Vicky and Jordan, whichever goes first, what your tip is to registering for classes outside of Tisch Drama. What is one thing that you've learned or that you've practiced that really allows you to ease your mind?
I can quickly jump in here, but and Jordan, feel free to add anything else as well. I believe that Rachel put some wonderful links in the chat. There are some incredible PDFs on the Tisch website, and they list all the different classes that are offered. And I also believe like what counts as what, or Tisch Drama Advising also has this list there. But I loved, because I'm a huge like compare and contrast every single class kind of person. So I went through the list and I basically said, oh, I love this title, or I like this. And I would check it on the public course search on Albert. And I made a list of like different classes that piqued my interest. And that's basically how I went about registering. Later on, just keeping those in mind. Jordan, if you have anything else.
Yeah, I did basically the same thing. The What Counts as What database is like the best thing ever. If you don't know what that is, just ask your advisor, and I'm sure they'll like be able to send you a link. But it has so many classes, and it tells you exactly where they allocate for. And so I would literally just like a couple of weeks before registration, just like scour them and see like, ooh, do any of these interest me? And then like Vicky, I would then go to Albert and like look at the description, and make sure that I knew ones that I wanted to be in. So if not registration for that semester, but like future semesters, I would be able to be like, oh, I really want to make sure I'm in that class. I would also go to Albert and like the specific like things that I was interested in. Like I said, I'm also a film minor. I would go to Tisch like TV and films section on Albert, and a lot of the classes you might not be able to get into, but some of them you are. And I could look at all of them. I could say like, ooh, these look really interesting. I really want to make sure I take this class. And because I'm a minor, then I was able to take a bunch of those classes where sometimes it'll be like, oh, you can't register until a certain date, like majors have to register first. And then if there's open seats, then you can get into those classes. And I got into some really fun classes that way and got some great experience from that. So I would also, the what counts as what database, and then also just going to the different schools you're interested in, whether it's Tisch or other schools or CAS or Steinhardt, and seeing what classes you want to take, and then if you could get in those. And if not, there's usually a way that you could sneak your way into it, like I did for a lot of them.
Yeah, my biggest tip, I have a couple. My biggest tip is over enroll. And now with that, you can't enroll more than 18 credits, but over enrolling is if you like a class, just put it in your shopping cart and enroll so that you have the space, because you don't know what's going to come up, but you don't want to be put on a wait list if you are in the class because something else came up. So make sure that you are in that class so that if you don't want to take it, you can just drop it. My other one will be put the classes in your shopping cart a week before registration, your registration date, so that on registration, you're not frantically trying to type and put all the classes and worrying about whether the green circle's turning into the yellow triangle. All you have to do when at 9 a.m. on November 15th is just press enroll and the magic happens. And I just want to, this is kind of not Zoom appropriate, but I'm just gonna share my screen. This is a list that I made with Joshua that is maybe common to us about how we get all of our classes figured out, right? So this was my social work minor. This was my psychology major that really helped me map out my 4 years. So that was really helpful. Belle, what is your best registration tip?
Yeah, I agree on finding the classes as early as possible. As an underclassman technically right now, in the past, I don't get first choices on my classes. So my other best tip for you is always have not just one backup, but a second backup, because often even my backup will be filled by the time that I get the chance to register. It's a little different now since I'm going into my junior year, but that's like my biggest tip, because I've actually had to sacrifice taking a theater studies that I want to take in order to fill like one of my minors or my major.
One thing, yeah, and speaking of things filling up, we're just giving you all the tea right now, and then we'll get more into the specific minors. One thing that I don't know if faculty would like hearing this, so I'm just going to emphasize the fact that this is a student-on-student conversation and say that within PND, what helps is I don't register for studio on registration date. And that may work for some other people, but at the end of the day, you will always be registered in studio. And what helps is if you don't register for studio, then your computer doesn't recognize the 8 credits, which means that you can get into more classes and then drop them later. So if you're really worried about your backup filling up, enroll for your backup instead of taking studio, and then your studio director can enroll you in studio after the fact. And that is a major hack that I don't think faculty would like hearing. But Rachel, I love you and I apologize. But that is a really good way to make sure that all of your bases are covered. As for night classes, I just want to give a warning. Night classes I've taken them, they're absolutely wonderful for if you are able to concentrate at that time. They tend to be more quiet, more intimate. What I will say is that if you are an acting student, they're kind of taboo, only because that is when we rehearse, coming from Tisch Drama stage. So if you have night classes and they conflict with possible rehearsal times, it may affect your ability to get casted if you would like to be in kind of the Tisch Drama stage shows. Just make that clear. Any other registration tips before we move on that are on my mind? Cool, cool. Yeah, yeah. And then one thing, yeah, also within the late registration for studio, like for me, P&D is not a set block time. So it will say that it's 8 credits, 10 to 6, but actually I have a gap between 1 o'clock and 5 that I could put a class in there. That's also a reason why you want to register after the fact, because the computer is going to say you can't have this psychology class because your studio overlaps, even though it doesn't. So that's the last one. Now, I'm interested, Belle, if you can speak to creative writing and what that entails.
Yeah, so the creative writing minor is, I believe, just 4 classes. Yeah, I think it's 16 credits. Yeah, it's 16 credits. It's workshop-based classes. So right now I'm actually taking my introduction to poetry and prose. I take an 8 a.m. I don't recommend 8 a.m.s, especially if you work or do performances. Like I don't do performances, but I do work, and it's not fun. But the class itself is really fun and it's very flexible. You're basically, with this introductory one, you're with actual students in the graduate department. So it's students that are taking either poetry or prose as their graduate, their MFA students. And you basically come in and you, like, 1 day a week, you bring in, you're like reading like the assignments. And then the second time you're bringing in work that you actually wrote. It depends on the structure of like how you're technically adjunct professor, but your graduate student wants to structure it. But you can basically, you get to bring in your own work and do that. And then it kind of continues on in that kind of structure for the next 3 classes. It's then you can take, there are certain classes that you can take. So like if I was to pursue continuing on in my creative writing minor, which I unfortunately have to drop to finish my double major, I would be taking intermediate fiction and poetry probably next semester if that had been the path that I chose. I definitely recommend, one hack for myself is similar to the document. I'm not sure if other studios do this. I'm sure that they do. The degree progress review. Even if you do that, I actually make my own copy of my degree progress review, and I kind of map out possibilities for my classes so that I'm like, oh, this is one path that I could do. This is another. I have like 5 degree progress reviews from like deciding if I wanted to do a film minor, a creative writing minor, a double minor, or a double major. So like that really helped me figure out, what actually fits in my time frame. Yeah.
That is really smart, and I actually do the same. Duplicating that Google Sheet is really a nice way to kind of determine your destiny and see all of the options. Especially because now, if we're being completely frank, NYU Albert is so annoying. It is so hard to use. It loads, there's buttons everywhere. I get it so confused. I just copy and paste all of the classes into a Word doc so that I never have to refer to Albert again until I'm registering. So having that on my computer immediately saves so much time, which I really need. So thank you for speaking to creative writing. I'm curious, and then we'll jump to film in a bit. But I'm curious if your minor or double major has made you rethink your career in any way. I know we can all acknowledge that we are very passionate people, passionate Tisch Drama students, but have you ever had the pivot thought in your mind? Yeah, Belle.
I was actually going to completely switch over to CIS, but then it turned out that I couldn't. So that's why I did the double major. I was going to do a complete major switch. which I'm really happy for because I still have the ability to do drama, and it's actually really complimentary and it will look incredible in my applications for when I want to go to graduate school. But I actually am kind of trying to pursue clinical psychology and either getting a PhD or a PsyD, depending if I get my master's first. It just depends on programs. I couldn't switch entirely because of the timing of it. I made that decision a little too late. So I truly do recommend that if you are like, if you're sitting in your studio classes or an elective class, I definitely recommend, if you're worried that theater isn't your thing, try taking the introductory to Stone Street class, because that actually just confirmed for me that I actually don't want to be an actor, but that's okay. I'm a writer, so it's okay. But I just realized that it wasn't the major for me, and I'm just taking what I can out of it now just to enjoy it. And playwrights is wonderful because it's so flexible. But I can't answer that question because it depends on everyone and it depends on how many credits you have remaining. But like I truly did want to switch over, and then yeah, so I'm completely pursuing a different career.
Yeah, Vicky, go ahead.
Oh, just really quickly. I mean, I came to college thinking I only ever wanted to do acting, and that's it, period. That's all I want to do. But as Jack knows, now I'm doing things with like student council and advocacy, and that came from lots of like inspiration from BEMT in my past. And I also am doing a ton of producing now, of my own work, of friends' works, of a lot of different things like plays and theater and film. So definitely, I think I still want to do acting and make that my primary, but it opens so many doors, all of these minors and double majors. So yeah.
For me, I chose my minors actually solely to inform my work in theater. I'm very theater centric. I chose social work, which I can talk about. It's the most underrated Tisch Drama supplement minor because it is honestly, it's theater equivalent, except more financial stability, and that it really harnesses our empathy in the way that theater does too. But the reason why I chose social work is because I'm a stage manager and I wanted to use my voice as in social justice. So social work really informs that, but also psychology informs the way that I think about other people and what I feel may enhance my collaborative tactics with other people. So it's interesting to see that we have some people declaring minors to pivot, some to blend, pivot, inform their work, and some just to inform their work. Um, we have a question. Um, yeah, I'm curious if people in the chat, I know you have your cameras off, in the chat, can you put with a number just what year you are? I'm just curious. So like if you're, so we first year, first year, first year, first. Any second years? Second year, great, 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 cool. So we have a lot of first years in the space. That is really good to know. Yeah. So I would start thinking about it now. Registration is coming up. I would make it a goal within the next week. I would make it a goal to look at Albert and choose one class that for your fall semester of second year, you are interested in taking. Whether this is an intro class to a minor, whether it's an elective, find one class for the fall semester, and when the fall comes, take the class. And I think that if you were to declare a minor or take a second class in the spring in the same place, you will be on the right track. That's what I did, but it's different for everybody, but it really works for me. And also, if you take two classes within a minor without declaring it and you declare it, those classes count. So you don't have to worry about that. But that would be my suggestion. Does anybody else have a different timeline that they felt worked for them?
Can talk on that. Also, can you guys still hear me? I just want to make sure. Okay, so I can talk on that. I have, so as I said before, I have 3 minors, one in film, one in producing, and then one in music through CAS. And I declared my first minor producing at the end of my sophomore year. And I agree with Jack, that timeline of like taking a class and then the second class you take, if you still like it, like then declare the minor. So that's when I declared my producing minor. Then after that, I figured out, oh, film and producing minors have some overlapping classes. So, and I also wanted a film minor. So I was like, might as well declare that as well. So then I took some summer classes, declared the film minor, I think either in the summer or the first semester of my junior year. And then I had taken, and this totally isn't for everyone, but during COVID, I was like, I'm going to be home anyways. So I took some summer classes and then a J term class. So, and where a bunch of the classes were overlapping, I then had quite a bit of room in my schedule. So I was like, oh, great. Is there anything else? I'm kind of crazy, people. Like, if you haven't caught that already, I was like, ooh, is there another minor I want to declare? And so then I was like, okay, music is always a big passion of mine. And I want to take some music classes anyways before I graduate. So I think at the either like the middle or the end of my junior year, I declared my music minor. And then this year have finished up classes for that as well. So I want to stress the whole, like, it's never too late to like declare one if you want. However, it is smart to do a lot of research on that to make sure one, you can finish it and you wouldn't be overloading yourself. Honestly, I think COVID was a big help in making that room for my schedule where we were all going to be at home anyways. And that's why I took on a bunch of extra classes. However, that's not for everyone. And that might be like a very specific situation since everything's opening back up and you know, we're under different circumstances now. So it's not impossible, but definitely like be smart about it unless, yeah, definitely be smart about it and do your research beforehand.
Yeah, do your research beforehand. Before picking a class, reach out to your advisor with the class list and say, what are these going to count for? And sometimes, if you and your advisor are very close, if you are very strategic, you can have kind of a bending of what it counts for. So how you do that is if you are declaring a minor in another school, you will have another advisor. So that advisor can help uh, to help uh, determine the guidelines. Often what you'll do is you'll send the syllabus of the class that you're taking outside of Tisch to your advisor or the department head, and they will help determine which one it is. Um, I've done this a lot with my theater studies classes, and sometimes you are able to convince your advisor to help by making it count for one thing if it is close enough. Now, they're not going to stretch and be like, we're taking a class about the brain and this is going to be it like a humanities. Not like that. But if you are taking an elective that teeters towards a humanities and you need that humanities credit, that's where you can really delve into the syllabus with your advisor and see if that works. They will have a really good idea of what the learning goals of each principal is: humanities, science, balance, and that's how you make those minor classes really count towards your degree. Speaking of, Jordan, so with these 3 minors, do you know off the top of your head kind of which minor fulfilled which part of your graduation requirements?
Yes, so a lot of them were more so in the film and producing side. A lot of my producing minor classes counted towards humanities. I know the media moguls in the 20th century, that counted towards humanities, and that one for sure. And then there was one other, I can't remember which right now. If I look back at the classes, I would be able to. But I know that one for sure counted for humanities. Mainly, most of them didn't
count as, oh, and I think, I could be wrong, but I think script analysis also counted towards my general education classes, which was a great class because, you know, it just went perfectly hand in hand with my theater degree as well, but also looking at it through a lens of film. And it's like, that's so awesome. Like, it counts as like humanities. I don't think most of the classes count towards sciences. I think it's mainly on like the humanities, and then that also would count towards your balance of liberal arts. So I know those two classes for sure, and I think both of those overlap for the film minor as well. And then for the music minor, most of those were elective classes. Most of the music classes didn't double count towards my major. It was more on the like film and producing side.
Got you. Thank you. Okay, more participation. I recognize the time. We have about 9 minutes left. I invite you all to enter the chat any questions about what we've discussed, any worries, anything that's on your mind as we're talking about your educational future that we can help clear up. But I'm also curious of what you are interested in. Do you have an inkling of what you want to study? Or anything that you want to study specific to what we're talking about with our minor experience? Put it in the chat. Yeah, okay, we have computer science. Numbers absolutely scare me, so good for you. Psychology, yes, Allison, yes, psychology is a great double major in dramatic writing, political science, very timely, very good with Tisch Drama. What else? Dramatic writing, music or BEMT. Cool. Anyone interested in social work? Do we have any other people within? Rachel, could we check in about the dramatic writing minor? I believe there is.
Well, we have a dramatic writing second major, not a minor. They do have one, but it's only for students who are dramatic writing majors. They have a comedy minor. But I am putting in the chat like a general course plan for the dramatic writing second major. And so students can apply for that program, and essentially just like you did a portfolio for your theater program, you would do a portfolio for the dramatic writing. And then again, your home program would be theater, and then your second major would be dramatic writing. And so I put in a link to show you if you are a first year student, you will complete your second year now and apply for third year. And sometimes students early on know that they want to apply for the dramatic writing second major, so they would apply in their first year. But since we're in the spring, if you are interested in the dramatic writing second major, you will begin your application in the fall, and you will begin in your third year. So just make sure you click the tab in that link to see how the sequence for third year start goes.
Thank you so much. Oh my gosh, the advising team are the best people, the best faculty we have at Tisch Drama, honestly. Thank you so much. Yeah, so I invite people to, it's so nice to see what all of you are pursuing, yes. I invite you to either ask questions in the chat, or if you're feeling brave and want to turn on your microphone, please do before we conclude. So any questions? We have the raise hand function, which I do not know how to use at this current moment. 1 second, please, friends. Whoever is raising
has a question.
Yeah, Allison, go right ahead.
Yeah, so for like J term and summer classes, how would you say those are like different from regular term classes, besides obviously like how long you're taking it?
Vicky, go ahead.
I personally have not taken J-term or summer classes, but my best friend has. And she told me that so I basically have a bit of an understanding here, and if anyone else has taken, feel free to chime in, but it's basically the same class but way condensed. It's normally every single day, or yeah, very, very accelerated, super intense, very much an intensive moment. And it's basically, I believe that you pay per credit, so it's not really included in the tuition there, but Rachel, you can double check me on that. But just very intense. It's condensed into 3 weeks. And yeah, I think that's all I have to add about that. Feel free to chime in.
I can speak a little bit on this as well. I've taken both J-term classes and summer classes. So summer classes have like 2 sessions. They have like a first session, which is towards the beginning of summer, and then a second one, which is towards the end. Those classes are definitely longer than J-term. I want to say they're around like 6 weeks. I could be wrong on that exact number, but that's from my memory. And while it is accelerated, it's also kind of cool because that's like the 1 or 2 of the only classes you're taking at the time. So it's like you really get to focus on just that. And if it's like a non-studio class, like I did screenwriting in the summer, so I got to work on like my screenplay the entire time. So it was really nice to not have like other things to worry about, like, oh, I got to do this for studio, I got to do this for my Jeanette. It's like I could just put all my focus towards that. So that's one of the benefits of it, but it is a lot more obviously intense because it's so accelerated. And then for J-term, it's like the same thing. And so it's kind of like you're getting out of it the biggest necessities. I did fundamentals of film 1 over J-term, and again, one of the pros is that you're like thrown into it. It's the only thing you're working on, and so it's like super specific, and you just get to like concentrate on filmmaking or whatever that course is. And also, I would say maybe a possibility with it is if it's a course that you're like, oh, I have to get this, but you're not necessarily wanting to spend an entire semester on it, that might be a good time to take it as well. But yeah, so there's some pros and cons to J-term and summer classes. It kind of depends on what you're looking for.
I will speak to some of the cons. I am against J-term and summer classes personally. I see the reason why people want to take it, but when I took a class I didn't like. And so throughout the week, I was in hell with this boring class. That was not right. Also, because of its intensive nature, you are basically giving up your break, in my opinion, except for weekends, because you go to class, which will be in longer sessions, and then you go home, you do the homework, and then you do it the next day. So I would suggest considering taking your break and trying to get it within the fall spring semester, but that's just me. Belle?
Yeah, so I'm actually not taking it through NYU because NYU is, I mean, this is student on student. NYU is absurdly expensive. And for me, I can't afford summer or J-term classes because it does cost by credit. And then for what I needed, it would have been $6,000 for just 4 credits, and I needed to take 8. So I'm taking it actually at my other at a different university back home, University of Hawaii at Manoa. And it's the process of getting that approved. I definitely recommend, if you know it's going to be out of Tisch, to talk with the advisor that minor or major, whatever class you're going to be taking outside of, and make sure you email the professor at the other university or community college that you want to take it at, and ask for the syllabus ahead of time so that you can confirm with that advisor that it overlaps enough so that the department will, when it needs to be approved. And then once you do that, start the communication with your actual academic advisor and tell them, hey, I'm looking to take these classes at this summer. The advisor of the department that I want to take these classes at said that they overlap enough, I can take it. And then the advisor, your advisor, I have JJ, he'll give you, they'll give you the form that you need to fill out, and you need to get approved by student services. And you have to have the classes already selected. So you need to know the schedule of the summer classes or winter term that you want to take it at. And then just like my biggest thing is just like have that syllabus, because you have to prove why you should be taking that class over the summer. Like I had to send an email and say, this is why I need to take these classes. These are what these classes are talking about. And I had to prove that the department would accept, the psychology department will accept those credits as well. So just like really be on top of it, kind of be an A type for a second so that you can make sure that they get approved, because if they don't get approved, then you're taking classes for no reason.
That's some good advice right there. I appreciate that. I want to recognize the time. It is 8 o'clock. And I want to thank our panelists so much for sharing your expertise. I want to thank our panelists for coming. I want to invite you to follow us at Tisch DSC on Instagram. If you have any more questions, that would make my heart so full to see your faces. And I want to thank Rachel as well for helping co-produce and moderate this event. So thank you so much. Have a great, safe rest of your rainy Thursday, and we'll see you in the hallways. All right. Bye, everyone. Thank you.
Bye.